So Sonic Mania is finally here. Took me long enough to get to this, huh? It has been 24 years since we got a game from the Genesis era, and 14 years since we got an amazing 2D game in the similar vein of the Genesis classics. But on July 22nd, 2016, during the Sonic 25th anniversary stream, we got the announcement of Sonic Mania, a throwback to the original trilogy and a sequel to those games. While we did have some good games like the Advanced Trilogy, Sonic Rush, Colors, and Generations, we also had some questionable ideas over the years. So seeing this really got me excited, and if this does well, we could see more games like this. A game by the fans, for the fans. By the mania, for the mania. Which I'm not exactly sure what that means. Let me take a look. Well, that makes way too much sense. But that would assume this game is any good, though if any of this didn't convince anyone, well, I guess Sonic really is dead. But let's get to the good stuff. Sonic Mania starts with a throwback to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, with Sonic and Tails going to the Angel Island to look for a mystic power. To the dismay, Eggman Robotnik was one step ahead of them and nabbed the jewel known as the Phantom Ruby, a jewel that can control time and space. Just think of it as all the Chaos Emeralds combined into one. With the power of the Ruby, everyone is taken to Green Hill, as well as Knuckles the Echidna, who was just chilling without any trouble from Sonic and Eggman. Poor guy can't really get a break. Maybe that's why he gets the Master Emerald later on in the series. Not a very complicated story, though this is a 2D game that is trying to replicate the classics, so I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The game holds 12 levels, with 2 acts apiece, but the interesting part is that Knuckles goes through the entire adventure differently. For example, in Green Hill Act 1, Knuckles goes through the underground caverns, while Sonic and Tails go through a recreation of the first 2 acts of the original. The levels are as follows: Green Hill for Sonic 1, Chemical Plant and Oil Ocean from Sonic 2, Stardust Speedway and Scrap Rate Metallic Madness from Sonic CD, Flying Battery, Hydrocity, and Lava Reef from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and 4 new zones in the form of Studiopolis, Press Garden, Mirage Saloon, and Titanic Monarch, which I argue is a combination of some of the worst levels in the classic games, but I digress. That does have the ratio of 2 classic to 2 modern, but the old levels have a lot of new elements, especially in their Act 2s, like Chemical Plant having syringes turning the deadly chemicals into bouncy gel, and Oil Ocean having a deadly smog that constantly drains all your rings. And it's not the tropes that make them special either. With the elemental shields returning, seeing the environment change in places like Green Hill and Oil Ocean make the levels feel new and fresh, rather than slapping it on for nostalgia's sake. And some levels even have gimmicks from other levels and even other games, like Stardust Speedway having switches from Marble Garden and Hydrocity having the bubble gimmick from Game Gear Sonic 2. And the new stages are no different. Studiopolis has bouncy balloons and circle of bumpers from Carnival Night, Press Garden has a few gimmicks from Ice Cap, and Titanic Monarch feels like a combination of Scrap Brain, Metropolis, and the Death Egg. All it's missing is the splicers and asterons to make it truly impossible. Speaking of the new stuff and the Hellspawn being a good segue, the bosses are a highlight of the game. No 2 bosses is the same. Some are recreations of their respective level, then there are the bosses like the Death Egg Robot in Green Hill, holy shit. But there is also the Mean Bee Machine for Chemical Plant's second boss. Holy crap, this boss is awesome. I freaking squealed over this boss, and I know it was a little on the easy side, but I don't care, they made a Puyo Puyo boss and I'm so happy. There is not a boss that can beat this. I am not crying right now. I predicted this, I wanted this Weasel as the Mirage Saloon's boss, and we freaking got it! Along with Green and Bark too, oh my gosh, I'm in tears, man! Oh look, Knuckles, it's the stage select in your game. That's actually pretty neat. Is that still a Sonic from 8-bit Sonic 2? Shit, they're so tiny and so bouncy. What the hell did Eggman make these out of? Rubber? But I can't talk about the bosses without mentioning the hard-boiled heavies. Highly advanced egg robots that got transformed by the Phantom Ruby. The heavies are as follows. The Heavy Magician with the ability to make mirages. Heavy Shinobi throwing asterons and freezing the player if they get too close. Heavy Gunner shooting missiles at the player. Heavy Rider does fancy tricks to run over Sonic and Tails. And Heavy King tries to take the Master Rival from Knuckles' hideaway. That's all I really have for him, honestly. And to keep up with the gushing, the graphics and sound are just amazing. Every level looks so good, and all of it accompanied by some fantastic music. T-Los does some amazing stuff, and I've known his stuff before this game was announced, so it's really cool to see him get a chance to shine in Mania. The new tracks, though, are definitely my favorites. I love the energetic Studiopolis, the western feel of Mirage Saloon, the eeriness of Titanic Monarch, and my favorite being both the Technical Act 1 and Serene Act 2 of Press Garden. Seriously, I love this stage. In fact, the new levels themselves are the best in the game, in my opinion. Well, besides Titanic Monarch, I guess. And I wish there were more of these stages. And as much as I love the throwbacks, I didn't really see any need to bring back Chemical Plant, or especially Hydrocity. I know bringing in other stages would have made the other stages in the game a little redundant, but I wanted to see Hilltop and Mystic Cave get some love. Or at the very least make Ice Cap a better level than it was in Sonic 3. Oh wait a minute, I think they did. And why is Metallic Madness here? We could have had any other stage from Sonic CD, but you send what is considered the Scrap Brain Mark II. I know there's a mini Knuckles, it's adorable, but that doesn't mask the fact that it's a freaking hellish abomination! But seriously, whoever thought bringing back Hydrocity Zone was a good idea needs to get freaking shot. It dragged in Sonic 3, and it's a bit better, but it's still not very fun. At least we can murder Eggman with his own device, I guess that's worth it. So that brings me to another problem with Mania, though it's somewhat a minor one. The transitions to other zones. Some like Green Hill to Chemical Plant and Mirage Saloon to Oil Ocean have special cutscenes to tell you what's going on, but how did we get from Flying Battery to Pressed Garden, or Stardust Speedway to Hydrocity? This kind of consistency is a bit off. And I gotta say, I was not excited for Blue Sphere's return. I mean, at the very least they aren't for the Emeralds, but they are still a headache to go through, and trying to get these perfects are just frustrating. Same can be said for the actual special stages though. These are the best special stages in the series bar none, as a person who didn't really like any of them in the classic games. They're a combination of Sonic CD and Knuckles Chaotix of all games, where you chase down a UFO while collecting the blue spheres for speed and the rings for your timer. They have just enough challenge to make them tricky, but not to the point that they can get dumb. Also, seeing the burst and fish from the Sonic 1 stages just makes it a bit uncomfortable. So blank and lifeless. And when we're talking about the control for Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, they work just as well as they were in the classic days. Sonic has his speed as well as a new drop dash for this game, which I barely used, I'll be honest. And the special abilities for his shields are back for him as well. Tails has his flight ability, as broken as usual, but I remembered him tiring out quicker than he does here. I guess in that sense it's better, but alright. And Knuckles has his signature gliding and climbing, and the stages he doesn't share with Tails and Knuckles is tailor-made for his moveset in mind. Speaking of level design, it's very similar to Sonic 2 and 3, where each stage has several ways to get to the goal, but you're also going left on occasion to find secrets, and where you're also going to have to progress for some levels, like Chemical Plant. And at least there weren't as much difficult platforming like there was in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Ice Cap and Sandopolis, I do not miss you in the slightest. Though with those design ideas in mind, the collision problems that plagued the originals are also here as well. Oh, bullshit! It's not a big deal since it doesn't happen a lot, but it's still annoying when it happens. Okay, I'm done with the game, but there's one thing I want to say before I end this. Is Sonic Mania a great game? I believe so. In fact, it skyrocketed into one of my favorite games in the series. But the thing I want to stress, to the people who think this game is either the first good Sonic game, or the first good game since Sonic 3 and Knuckles, have you not played any of the other games after Sonic 3? After Sonic 3, we had the Advanced series, we had Sonic Rush and Rush Adventure, we had Sonic Unleashed, Colors, and Generations. All of these games had a lot of love put into them, and I argue the Advanced trilogy tried really hard to be the great update to the originals, and they succeeded in my opinion. They feel like a new generation of Sonic games without having to resort to the 3D trend. Yeah, we had the adventure games, which became a love them or hate them situation over the years. And we had Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06, Sonic Chronicles, the Storybook series. The way Sonic was made was not meant to be in the third dimension, though they did tweak it for Sonic Unleashed and onwards. But that's because they incorporated 2D into the mix. The 2D stuff is great, some of my favorite platformers of all time, and many agree on that. But that proves my point that Sonic Mania, while an excellent game, is not the first game since the Genesis days to be really good. If you really think that, you've probably missed out on the classics like Advance and Rush, and just ignored games like Colors and Generations. Sure, you can say they weren't amazing like the original stuff, and you can have that argument, but at least acknowledge that they were good games during Sonic's career. There's a lot of shit and a lot of mediocrity in the series, I'm not gonna lie about that. But his life after Sonic 3 and Knuckles wasn't all doom and gloom, and I'd like for people to stop acting like it was. But with all that out of the way, what else can I say? The game is everything I wanted from a sequel to the classics, outside of the Advance series of course. It uses the assets that worked from the originals and ditches the stuff that didn't work. And I'm really hoping this does well so we can see more of this. I have been starving for something like this since Sonic Advance 3, and this is easily my favorite in the series, and my favorite game of the year so far. I have a feeling Mania is going to be hard to beat. We got a little over 4 months left in the year, so let's see what it holds. Until then, I'll have to play with you guys next time.